Thank you, Delsa, and good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. My name is Tianmi, and I will be sharing some interesting insights about UX design and research for AI-driven products today. So we will start by a fundamental question. What's the difference in traditional product development and the AI experience creation? We'll also be covering how can we successfully build and measure AI-driven experience. And I think since most of the folks today attend the talk is from product team, so we will also be talking about the special role of product team in the development process. And lastly, we will also bring some good examples from Rubrik AI research on how to discover new AI opportunities with the power of user research. So let's get started. So when we think about designing or developing for AI-driven experience, there are some unchanged essentials remain the same. Also, there are also differences due to the nature of AI, and also the role of product design has been changed a lot. So let's get started with some basic and fundamental aspects. So people don't want to buy a quarter-inch straw, they want to a quarter-inch hole. This was proposed by a Harvard marketing professor, Sheldon Levitt, in 60 years ago. However, amazingly, it's still applicable today that people, they don't buy a product for the sake of buying a product. Instead, they want the product to either fulfill a need or do a special job. So the unchanged essential of the human-centered design is still the same. We still need to think about the fundamental questions. Who are our users? What are their value? What's the problem they have? How we are going to solve those problems, and how we can make sure the problem gets solved. The product design goal is always solving a real-world problem in ways in which AI has unique values. And then I would like to take Rubrik AI research as an example. So when we were designing our Ruby, the AI-powered chatbot, we didn't really ask people what they want, because as a famous cliche goes, if I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse instead of a car. It's very challenging for people to think about how they can utilize the revolutionary technology to make their life or work better. So when we started designing Ruby, we actually started with more basic and fundamental things about the user problems. And by understanding those real user problems, it will enable us to identify how we can leverage AI's power. So examples including like, well, the repetitive work that could be benefited from automation. Well, is the overwhelming information that we can prioritize by the AI power. What are the technique or specific domains that requires a high learning curve but can be benefited from natural language processing? What are the personalized or customized recommendations that we can provide to our users to save their time and effort? And lastly, how can we better support the decision-making process by leveraging the AI capacity? So by focusing on those concrete problems, we were able to design Ruby as a useful and special tool to help our customers fulfill their needs and do specific tasks. Ruby isn't just for the sake of incorporating AI into our system. It's really a powerful and innovative technology that solves the real-world user problems. So then let's talk about the difference in creating AI-driven experience. The first thing I wanted to point out is AI systems actually learn and adapt from user behaviors over time, and user needs also change as the AI evolves. So that means when we think about AI experience design, we not only think about what the character needs is, and also we need to anticipate the future behaviors and how users will interact with the system and how the system will adapt to user behaviors. So one good example I can think about is the content recommendation engines like Netflix. So it will take user engagement and user behaviors and then generate recommendations based on those past attitudes and behaviors. However, there's a drawback because as users take those recommendations, the recommendations can be increasingly narrowed down. Designers really need to think about how to counter the bias and take the feedback loops. So it's a good balance of personalization with diversity to make sure that users get what they want, and also they are able to expose to the new and novelty contents. The second thing I wanted to talk about, which make AI experience very different is that AI experience need to balance automation and user control, which impact trust a lot. Factors such as craftiness and emotions are very important to consider. So for a traditional product, if it's useful, users are going to use it. However, for AI product, users also need to think about if they feel comfortable to use it or not. So one good example is those photo management platforms like Google Photos. It is using the facial recognition capacity, so it automatically tags the faces with names or with persons. Well, it's very useful for users to, let's say, search for specific objects or rediscover their old memories. Some users may find it creepy if they are tagged without their knowledge or consent. Some users may feel it's uneasy to notice that AI have the ability to unexpectedly surface the good old photos or personal photos as they are like ex-partners, decreased family members, or just the personal moments that they don't expect to see. One more thing is AI is growing super, super fast. So back to 5 years ago, no one knows what GPT-2 is. But then 2024, everyone in the Bay Area are talking about AI, and that's why we have the talk today. So AI actually increased 10 times every year, the model size. And during the last 5 years, it has increased 10,000 times with dramatically improved performance. So with repeat growing AI technology, it actually encouraged product team at us to really make quick product iterations to facilitate a faster paced problem solving and development process. The traditional way of the waterfall may not be the best practice for AI because product team needs to be flexible, needs to adapt to agile, and need to make the small but powerful improvements, taking the user feedback and always incorporating with the latest AI technology that keeping coming out. So now let's talk about the role of product design. So first of all, we are important, we are crucial. Our goal is still deliver a satisfying, delightful, trustworthy, easy to use, and good user experience to the users. However, by developing the AI-driven experience, it also puts new responsibilities to the product team. So the first thing is product team, as us, can act as a bridge between the technical expertise and human needs. So that means that we need to collaborate more with data engineers, data scientists, and other stakeholders to ensure that the AI technology align with the user needs and business values. Also, product team should help the business to build ethical guidelines to reimagine what is possible while also surface potential risk and harms from a human-centered perspective. So some important things to consider include like data transparency, data security, and also privacy. I think everyone here is very familiar with those terms as we are working at Rubrik. So now let's talk about how to measure AI-driven experience. By understanding those key factors, we can also consider them into the design process to contribute to the overall success of AI products. So I would like to start with the sense of comfort because I think this is the most important concept when you think about the traditional products with the AI experience. Because for traditional products, whether or not users are going to use it is mainly depend on its usefulness. So basically, how easy is it to use? And there are a lot of toolkits and methodologies developed to measure the usability, discoverability, or functionality of the product. AI is slightly different because when you think of AI product, as I mentioned earlier, it's not only how useful it is, but also how creepy you feel of using it, or in other words, how comfortable users feel using it, which is affected by trust, levels of automation, and explanation. I'm going to go through it one by one. So let's get started with trust. Trust has a lot of definitions in the real world, but when we think about AI-driven experience, we can define it as the willingness to compare with automations. So the process to build the right level of trust with users is slow and deliberate, as you can see in this diagram. And it started even before users' first interaction with the product. So for example, before the use, user will have some expectations, and it's crucial for us to help set accurate and positive expectations so user understand what to do with the AI capacities. And the first moment they started interacting with the product, then it's the moment that we started building or establishing the trust. And we need to help users to really perceive the usefulness of the product. Otherwise, they are not going to invest the time or effort into it. And as users repetitively use the product, they need to be rewarded by making the experience more personal and more customized to them. And also, the simple fact of using the product more would create a feeling of familiarity and also foster trust. So you can see the trust really grow up from the first usage or before the usage to the repetitive using. So what's the best practice during the 3 stages? Taking Rubrik's data threat analytics as an example, most of our backup admins, they are not familiar with the security capacities like threat analytics. And at the first stage, before they started using it, it's important for the product team or designers to help our main personas to understand what they can expect. What's the benefits, capacities, and the limitations of AI that can help them identify the data threats. And when they started using it, we should start with some low-risk tasks, like helping users to discover and understand the features, instead of some high-value, high-risk tasks, because that may ruin the trust in the very early stage. And also, humans are very biased. Like, even the AI can do 100 times correct. One mistake will ruin the trust. So designers also need to think about the trust calibration. Let's say if a false positive happened in anomaly detections, and how to prevent the trust to be lost or to help users regain the trust. The level of user trust in the system should also match the automation capacities of the system in use. So if people trust AI when they shouldn't, that's an overtrust. So an example could be a self-driving car that requires a human to take control, but human doesn't, and then accidents happen. Also, if people reject to use AI when they should, it's a distrust, and that means like the user is not leverage AI to its full potential. So it's important for the product design team to think about how to calibrate trust into an appropriate level that makes the users be able to take the most advantage of the AI technology. One perspective to think about is if we want users to automate their task entirely, meaning that AI do everything for them, or just augment the task, meaning that AI can scaffold them to achieve the task by themselves. So one important thing to think about is for the traditional products, user is the solo driver of the interaction. However, in AI-driven experience, it really learns from user behaviors and have the autonomy to co-steer the interaction. That means it's important for us to think about the existing mental modes of users and also understand how users respond to automation. So let's say in orchestra recovery, when we start thinking about how to automate a recovery plan, it's crucial for us to start with understanding mental modes of backup admins or SecOps, and also identify the step-by-step process that novice users or expertise can't use to really understand their pinpoints and figure out how AI can jump into the help. And when we think about how to automate the recovery plan creation, some of the important questions for us to think, including like, how can we better communicate the benefits of the automated orchestra recovery, and also surface the transparency of its limitations and the importance of human oversight? How can we help users to understand this is a co-learning experience, that the performance of the system can be improved as they give more feedback and corrections? What's the right level of control and consummations that we want to give users so we ensure the sufficient flexibility, but not overwhelmed with users with like too many choices? By addressing those questions, designer can find the best balance between the autonomy and user control so we can create an AI experience that is not only easy to use, but also comfortable to use. The last thing I wanted to talk about in an inside sense of comfort is explainability. So if users understand how the system is making the judgments, they are likely to trust it more. When we evaluate the explainability, we not only evaluate the general system explainability, but also the specific outputs. For example, why does AI do that? Why not something else? And in specific scenarios, when would AI success? When would AI fall? When do users see an error and how do users correct an error? Those questions can help us to better evaluate explainabilities and set up guidelines when designing it. I also wanted to point out that explainability in AI system is a tricky and challenging thing due to the possibility nature of the AI. So it's a complex system and it can make decisions based on multiple factors. Sometimes it's not even feasible to provide a good explainability. So what is a good explanation? In humans' mind, it needs to follow 3 principles. Firstly, it needs to be contrastive. Secondly, it's concise, and it should not contain probabilities because usually humans struggle with uncertainty. So think about the anomaly detection example, like something is flagged as anomalous, and then user want to see why. A bad explanation means that you just tell user, the file access pattern was unusual with an 85% of anomaly score. Yes, it tells user something, but user wouldn't understand it. The explainability is so low and it's confusing. So a good way or a better way to explain it is telling users the reason based on those 3 principles. So an example is this file was accessed 15 times in a minute, which is significantly higher than the typical access frequency of 10 times per hour. So it shows the contrast of the current behavior and the expected norm. And also it's very strong, clear, without any probabilities. That will help users to understand the rationale that the AI system is making. So since we started talking about the probabilistic, some of you may be curious about what it truly means. So for the traditional products, the usefulness of products was usually fixed and object quality can be measured directly. So for example, I'm wearing a microphone today for the speaker, and to decide if it's useful or not, there is the object criteria, if it can record my sound or not. It would not change significantly if someone else is wearing it or I wear it in a different scenario. AI is a different story because AI will count probabilities. The usefulness is not whether the system does what it's supposed to do, but also how well it does it and how confident users feel about the result. So when we design for the AI-driven experience, it's important for us to think about how the probabilities will work for the solution. So one example is that for the traditional products, the error is usually binary. It's either works or not work. AI-driven experience, we need to think about when do users consider low confidence prediction to be an error. So for example, for the music recommendation apps, maybe today you get a song recommendation because you have listened to a song from this artist a few weeks ago. And you may think this is an error because you dislike it. And it's because that you feel like the recommendation should be based on the characteristics of the song, not the artist of the song. In a different case, for a different user, they may think it's helpful because they like all the songs from the artist. So even for the same AI behaviors, because users have different mindsets and perceptions, the probability or the successfulness could be different. Another example is in an e-commerce website that you may browse the product recommendations. Today, you find a recommendation is useful. Tomorrow, you feel the similar recommendation is irrelevant or annoying. So the success of AI recommendations is also dependent on the changed user needs and the different scenarios. So when we design for the AI-driven experience, we need to shift to accommodate the probabilities, thinking about the different scenarios, different user preference, and the perceptions of the usefulness. So I have talked a lot, so I just wanted to do a quick recap before we open the discussion. Just as all design for everything, that the product goal is always solving a user problem in ways in which AI add unique values. However, with the rapid growing of AI technology, it actually encourages us to do quick product iterations to facilitate a faster paced development process. And AI product success depends not only on the usefulness, but also on the user comfort, which is significantly impacted by trust, explainability, and automation level. And lastly, designers must consider the potential errors due to the probabilistic nature of the AI-driven experience. I think that is a well recap of what I have talked today. Thank you. So one more thing is, if you are interested in learning more, there are some good resources about AI design and research. So the deck, I think, will be shared later, and feel free to check those. I would highly recommend to check the Google's People and AI Research Guidebook because it's a very great overview of the different design principles. Thank you.